All right, let's jump right in. We're going to break down a really powerful playbook for building quality into whatever you do. And look, we are not talking about catching mistakes at the very end of the line. No, we're talking about building systems where mistakes become, well, almost impossible in the first place. Because quality isn't some final inspection, it's something you bake in at every single step.
But before we get into the how, we really have to get our heads around the why. So just think about this for a second. When one little thing goes wrong in a process, what does it really cost? Is it just the price of a scrapped part? Or is there a lot more to it? The answer, almost every time, is that it's way, way bigger than you think. And the really scary part? Most of that cost is completely hidden. It's totally invisible.
And that brings us to the perfect analogy for this whole idea, the hidden iceberg. This concept is called the cost of poor quality, or COPQ for short, and understanding it is what separates the good companies from the truly great ones.
So, what is it? Put simply, the cost of poor quality is the grand total of every single expense that happens only because things weren't done right the first time around. It's basically the price you pay for imperfection.
And this cost, it breaks down into two parts. You've got the stuff you see, the tip of the iceberg. That's the obvious stuff, right? Scrapped parts, the labor hours for rework, warranty claims. But the real danger, the part that can sink the whole ship, is everything lurking below the surface. We're talking lost production time, we're talking missed business opportunities, and the silent killer, a damaged reputation. So you might be thinking, why go through all the trouble of figuring this number out? Because knowing your COPQ is like having a strategic weapon. It shows you exactly where to focus your improvements for the biggest impact, and it gives you a rock-solid case to make to leadership when you need to invest in better systems. Okay, so we get it. The cost is high, the problem is real. So what's the solution? Well, it's not about just trying harder. It's about having a smarter system. So let's dive into that solution, a really powerful 4-pillar framework for building quality. Here it is. This whole system, it stands on 4 essential pillars. You've got quality planning, quality assurance, quality control, and finally, quality improvement. If all 4 of these are strong, the whole thing is solid. We're going to break them down into 2 main phases. Phase 1 is all about being proactive. This is all the work to do up front to design quality right into your process from the very beginning so that problems don't even get a chance to pop up. It's about designing it right and building a process that's actually capable of success.
This phase covers those first 2 pillars. Quality planning is where you take what the customer actually wants and you translate that into a concrete, buildable process. Then, quality assurance is where you make sure that process can actually deliver good results consistently, time after time.
You know, a perfect, real-world example of quality assurance is something like a control jig. It isn't just a tool, it's a system built into the process. It physically guides the operator so they hit the spec perfectly, the first time, every time. You're literally building success right into the workstation.
And this leads to this absolutely brilliant concept called Poka-Yoke. It's a Japanese term that basically means mistake-proofing. The goal is to design the process so that it's physically impossible to mess up. The best analogy ever, a simple USB plug. It only fits one way. You can't get it wrong. That is Poka-Yoke in its purest form.
Okay, so that's the proactive side of things. But let's be realistic. What happens if, despite all that amazing upfront work, a problem still gets through? That's where phase 2 comes in. This is all about how you control your output and, even more importantly, how you systematically hunt down and eliminate the cause of any issues.
And this phase rests on our last 2 pillars. So quality control, that's all about verification. You know, inspecting and catching any defects to make sure they don't get to the customer. But quality improvement, that's where the real magic happens. This is where you use data to dig deep, find the true root cause, and get rid of it forever.
And here's the crucial shift in thinking. The goal isn't just to put a Band-Aid on a problem and move on. The goal is to truly understand why that problem even exists in the first place. Because if you're just chasing symptoms, that is a game you will never ever win.
The classic tool for this is the 5 whys technique. It's designed to help you move beyond a simple fix. See, a correction is just putting out the fire, but a true corrective action is figuring out what caused the fire and making sure it can never start again. That's what the 5 whys does. By asking why over and over, you peel back the layers and get to the real systemic issue at the heart of it all.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle. This isn't really a tool or a process, it's the fundamental mindset that makes everything else work. And it's simple: fix systems, not people.
This one sentence says it all. When something goes wrong, our gut reaction is often, ugh, who messed up? But that question leads nowhere. A culture that's serious about quality asks a much more powerful question. What was it about our system, about our process, that allowed this mistake to happen?
Because here's the thing, when you fix the process, you empower everyone to succeed. It doesn't matter who's doing the job. You prevent that same mistake from ever happening again to anyone. The goal isn't just putting out today's fires, it's about building a truly fireproof organization. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Think about that one recurring, annoying problem you deal with at work. You know, the one that always gets blamed on human error. What would you find if you started looking at it not as a people problem, but as a system problem in disguise?